Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive into a truly fascinating book, All the Light We Cannot See. We're going to World War II, a blind French girl, a German boy, and radio. Sounds familiar. But trust me, this isn't your typical war story.
It really isn't. Doerr does something special with how he tells the story.
Yeah.
Jumping between people, jumping between times. So it's like a puzzle, yeah. You got to put the pieces together to see these lives shattered by war.
It definitely keeps you guessing. And speaking of piecing things together, Saint-Malo, where a lot of the story happens, it's practically a character itself. Doerr describes it so vividly. The streets, the walls, the sea air.
You can practically feel the cobblestones, smell the salt. And for Marie-Laure, our blind protagonist, those sensory details, that's her world.
Exactly. He doesn't just tell us she's blind. We experience the world through her. Touch, smell, sound, like how she navigates Paris, using a model her dad made. Memory and touch, that's how she moves. It's powerful stuff.
Makes you realize how much we take sight for granted, huh?
Totally. And then there's Werner, the German boy. He's all about sound, specifically radio waves. It's like he's searching, tuning in to something hidden amidst the chaos.
That's a great observation. In a way, both Marie-Laure and Werner are trapped, her by blindness, him by the ideology of wartime Germany. They're both looking for an escape, just in different ways.
And I keep noticing these contrasts, these themes of light and darkness, literally and figuratively. Marie-Laure, blind, right. But her inner world is so bright, so resilient.
A beautiful paradox. And with Werner, his obsession with radio. It's like searching for a signal, for understanding, for hope in the darkness of war.
But then there's the literal darkness, too. The bombs, the destruction, the extinguishing of life in Saint-Malo, a brutal reminder of what war really is.
Absolutely. And Doerr doesn't shy away from the moral complexities either. No clear-cut good versus evil, just people making hard choices in impossible situations.
It's tempting to see things in black and white, especially with war, but Doerr forces us to see the gray areas, the internal battles these characters face.
Take Werner. He's bright, curious, loves science. But he's also growing up in Nazi Germany, surrounded by propaganda, pressure. Makes you think about how ideology shapes morality.
And Sergeant Major von Rumpel, obsessed with this diamond, the sea of flames, driven by greed, maybe. But there are hints of something more, some vulnerability, a twisted sense of duty, even.
Makes you wonder, is he a villain or just a product of his time? And that diamond, it's this object of desire, shrouded in mystery.
It's like a ticking time bomb in the story, right? You know it'll be important. How? Adds a whole other layer of tension.
And then there's the parallel between the book's structure and the legend of the Sea of Flames. The diamond, protected by layers of traps. Just like Doerr protects the heart of his story, revealing it piece by piece.
So we've got this puzzle-like structure, vivid settings, characters making tough choices in wartime. But it's not all gloom and doom, is it? There's hope, too, the power of connection.
That's where Doerr shines. Those moments of tenderness, of shared humanity, they hit you hard. Like Marie-Laure and her father, their love for each other. A beacon in their dark world.
And Werner, with his longing for connection, those secret radio talks with his sister, Judah, these little bits of normalcy in a world gone mad.
It really makes you wonder how their lives will intertwine, how their paths will collide in this world on the brink.
Let's go deeper into their stories, see how they got to this point, how the war shaped them, setting the stage for their inevitable meeting.
Let's start with Marie-Laure. She loses her sight young, thrown into darkness. But her father, the locksmith from the museum, he becomes her guide, her protector, her link to the world.
He's not just loving, he's resourceful. That model he makes of their neighborhood, incredible. It lets her experience the city through touch.
Speaks to human ingenuity, right? Overcoming huge obstacles. And that model, that's love, that's resilience. It'll be crucial for her survival.
But he's also got this huge responsibility, protecting the Sea of Flames diamond from the Nazis. Another layer of danger in their lives.
Definitely raises the stakes. Their escape from Paris, diamond in tow, it's a race against time.
And Werner's world, completely different. Poverty, hardship, a mining town in Germany. He's bright, curious, loves anything mechanical, electrical, but opportunity is scarce. And then there's the shadow of Nazism.
A huge contrast to Marie-Laure's life. Yet, they both feel trapped, yearning for something more. Circumstances beyond their control.
And it's their shared fascination with radio that'll ultimately bring them together.
That's the beauty of this story. It's not just about the horrors of war, but about the connections that can bloom even in the darkest times. The strength of the human spirit to find light in the shadows.
So the war's getting worse, and Marie-Laure and her father, they have to flee Paris. They end up in Saint-Malo, this walled city on the coast, with her great-uncle Etienne, and of course, they've got the Sea of Flames diamond with them.
Seminole, it's like a little world reflecting the bigger war, you know? Fear and uncertainty everywhere. Doer really makes you feel that sense of being trapped, the walls closing in.
Yeah, you feel it. Shortages, the threat of violence.
Mm.
But even then, there's this resilience. People finding ways to cope, to connect.
Like Madame Manek, their landlady. What a character. She's tough, defiant, refuses to be intimidated by the Germans, won't give up her radio. She's a real inspiration for Marie-Laure and Etienne.
I love her. That quiet resistance, holding on to hope and individuality is powerful, shows that even small acts of defiance matter.
And it reminds us about the power of stories. Sharing experiences, coping with trauma, building community. Madame Manek's stories, they're a lifeline for Marie-Laure, connecting her to a past that feels so fragile now.
It's interesting how the radio plays such a big role, right? Both a symbol of hope, A-N-D, a tool of oppression. For Marie-Laure and Etienne, it's a link to the outside, to the resistance. But for Werner, his talent with radio, it takes him down a much darker path.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale. Shows how technology can be used for good or evil. Even the brightest minds can be twisted, especially in a totalitarian regime. You see Werner struggling, torn between loyalty to his country and what he's starting to see, the awful things being done.
It's tough to watch his innocence fade, how the propaganda and the brutality he witnesses at that Nazi school chip away at him.
That scene where Frederick, his classmate, gets punished just for being perceived as weak. That's a turning point. Werner sees the reality of the ideology he's serving.
It's a brutal reminder of how war dehumanizes, how it can twist even the kindest hearts.
But Werner, he still holds on to some hope. You see it in his letters to Jutta, his sister. He misses her, feels guilty. He's desperate for meaning in a world that's lost its way.
Their letters are heartbreaking. You can feel the unspoken emotions, the distance growing between them. Like the war's created a gap they might not be able to bridge.
It shows how war ripples outward, tearing families and communities apart. The scars, they run deep.
While Werner's facing his own moral struggles, Marie-Laure is finding strength in Saint-Malo. She explores the town, uses her senses, connects with nature in a way that goes beyond all the destruction.
Her blindness, at first it seems like a weakness, but it becomes a source of power. She experiences the world differently, finds beauty in simple things, finds comfort in nature.
Like she's turned into a different frequency, one that the war can't touch.
And her great-uncle Etienne, he becomes a guiding force for her. He's got his own baggage, haunted by the last war, struggles with trauma and loss.
Yeah, he retreats into his radio broadcasts and his model making, finding comfort in the familiar, trying to create order in a world that's gone crazy.
But he's also fiercely protective of Marie-Laure, wants to shield her from the worst of it. Those secret radio broadcasts, sending messages of resistance, a symbol of hope, a refusal to be silenced.
And then there's Marie-Laure's father. He has to go back to Paris. Something important at the museum leaves Marie-Laure with Etienne. Talk about suspense.
A risky move. Shows his love for his daughter, his dedication to their mission. But it also highlights the impossible choices people had to make in wartime. Sacrifices for the ones they loved.
And as the war rages on, Saint-Malo becomes a target. The bombing, Doerr describes it so vividly. You can feel the ground shaking, the heat of the flames.
Yeah, it's a pivotal moment, a point of no return. Changes everything for our characters.
Yeah.
And it's in that inferno amidst the chaos that Werner and Marie-Laure will finally meet.
Werner, now part of this unit hunting down enemy radio transmissions, he's trapped in the ruins of a bombed building. His hearing's messed up, radio's gone, his whole world's shattered.
He's facing the consequences of his choices, surrounded by death and destruction. A harsh reality check.
And in that moment, Marie-Laure, guided by her senses, by that model her father made, she stumbles upon him.
It's fate, right. A brief connection in this world that's fallen apart. And it's this encounter that will set the stage for the final act of this incredible story.
So Saint-Malo, it's in ruins. Shattered buildings, shattered lives. We left Werner trapped in that cellar, totally disoriented after the bombing.
Doerr puts you right there, doesn't he? The chaos, the dust, the ringing in Werner's ears. It's a powerful reminder of what war does to a person inside and out.
And it's not just Werner. Bernd, Volkheimer, they're all dealing with injuries, with the trauma of what they've been through. Volkheimer especially. He's this tough, hardened soldier, but you see the softer side with Werner, almost like he wants to protect him.
Yeah, it's interesting. This bond they form, these two soldiers, amidst all the horror. Volkheimer, he becomes like a father figure to Werner, offering guidance and a bit of protection, even though he's got his own demons to fight.
And it's in this desperate situation that Werner meets Marie-Laure.
A chance encounter, yeah. A moment of connection that goes beyond language, beyond nationality. Marie-Laure, with her father's model, her sharp senses, she finds Werner's hiding place.
That model, it's more than just a model, isn't it? It's a symbol of her father's love, his way of helping her navigate the world. And now, in this crisis, it leads her to Werner. A connection is made, and it changes everything.
It shows how even in the darkest times, human connection can find a way. And for Werner, meeting Marie-Laure, it's like waking up. He remembers his humanity.
He uses his radio skills, what's left of them, to help Marie-Laure send a message. A tiny spark of hope in all the destruction.
A little act of rebellion. He's not letting the darkness win entirely. And it's a turning point for him. He starts to question everything he's been taught. He makes choices that put him at odds with the Nazis, choices that have big consequences.
The story doesn't stop when Saint-Malo is liberated, though. Doerr shows us what happens next, how these characters deal with the aftermath.
Right. Marie-Laure, she goes back to Paris, rebuilds her life, pursues science, finds love, family. But the war, it's still there in her memories, shaping how she sees the world.
And Werner. He's haunted by what he did, by the lives he took, tries to find redemption, but the guilt is heavy.
Doerr doesn't give us easy answers. He makes us think about how complex war is, the lasting effects of trauma, the possibility of forgiveness.
And that diamond, the sea of flames, it's always there, looming over the story. It plays a part in their fates, but it's not the diamond itself, really, is it? It's the stories we tell about it, the meaning we give it.
Yeah, it becomes this symbol of wanting beauty, something precious in a world of ugliness. But it's also a warning. Obsession, greed, ambition, those can be destructive too.
I think what sticks with me most is the resilience of the human spirit. How we can love, how we can hope, even when things are at their worst.
It's a reminder to appreciate the little things. Connection, beauty, even in the ruins.
Well, this deep dive into all the light we cannot see, it's been quite a journey. A story that makes you think, makes you question things, see how connected we all are.
And maybe, more than anything, it shows us that even in the darkest times, there's always light, as long as we're willing to look for it.
A message we all need to hear, especially these days. A message of hope, resilience, the power of the human spirit to find beauty, to find each other, even when things are tough.
A story that stays with you. It makes you look at the world differently, appreciate the everyday, just beautiful.